thing up? When does it start? Right there. Thanks, Will. I think I have that shirt. And in our own little way, all of us do. This says we start at 10:45, so let's just sit for 25 minutes.
I'm sure you can fill it.
They blew right through the opening stuff, I guess.
That's odd from Jay.
Social media. Oh, I got to take a note because I don't remember what I said I was going to speak about. It's all part of the shtick, kids.
15 extra minutes, I'm sure you'll get to it.
I'll write something down. Good to see you again, Ryan. Actually, you know, I should have read up my cards.
Well, you shot 15 minutes. That's a pretty hot video.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm not even bringing up any technology here. I'm wrecking Whitney's mic here, but
He's got those print magazine things there too, though.
I'll show you. You know, Chris Penn reminded me of the story of when he met me at Bar Camp Boston, and I did a presentation called "Content Networks Are the New Blogs." And the way I started off was I had stolen my next door neighbor's Sunday paper, and I took the front section of the Sunday paper and explained that. So everybody in the room have a blog? Oh, we all have blogs, right? Yeah. Who does not or has no intention of ever having a blog?
I only have a partial blog.
What does that mean?
Just a Twitter
Is that like partly pregnant?
No. It means if I put up notices for my podcast, but I don't want to type anything else on it. So.
Oh, all right. So you have like one of those like spammy RSS feeds. I see. I get you, Russell. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wendy's recording. So I took the Boston Globe front page for the Sunday thing. I'm trying to find something that looks even vaguely like that, but I'll say it's this. And I said that this is one person's blog. Now, meanwhile, the only thing Penn is thinking in his head at this very second is he stole his neighbor's paper, and he's ripping it. And this is your blog. Looks just like you snowball.
His is bigger than mine, though.
Sizes and everything. This is your blog.
It's the value of the content.
Right.
Florida, you get an awesome blog. Richard Florida. Do you guys know him? He wrote the book Rise of the Creative Class. He has a new book called something about where you live or something. Richard Florida is a dude to know if you're interested in this social media space. Not because of his blog, because he never answers comments, the bastard. But so what I said, and this has nothing to do with this presentation. What I said was, this is the state of blogs today. This was in June 2006, one of those 2006s. I have 12 to choose from. Marcel, it's not going to happen. There'll be long periods of me not here. I said that blogs are all over the place, and that's why it takes so much effort to get the traction. There's two ways you can look at this. One is that newspapers have it right because they're gathering this stuff together in a way that you and I can read a story about sports, a story about health, a story about local economy, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can say that newspapers have it all wrong because I don't want to read about health, clearly. I don't want to read about the local economy. And I want to collect and make my own newspaper. Both answers are kind of right. So that's how I started my speech at Bar Camp Boston. And it was medium. Nobody liked it. Penn liked it. Penn liked the speech. Nobody else could have cared much. So that's when we realized we should probably do Pod Camp because nobody at Bar Camp, they were too smart for us. So that's what we did. So Fast Company magazine. Does anybody here already get it in some form or another? Do you pay for it? Steal it from your neighbor and rip it? Fast Company magazine very recently just relaunched their website, fastcompany.com, as a full-on social network instead of the magazine online. You can still get the articles online, but when you log in, the first thing it says is, you want to build a profile? Of course we do. Want to find your friends? Yes. Once more, I'd love to find the same friends that I have on every other social network. Would you like to start a blog? Yeah, oh, sure, because I don't already have one. I'd like to start another one on fastcompany.com. I love it. I think it's so clever that that's what they led with on their website. They decided to say, our community is so important to us that we'll give you sort of the front space on our website. That is the damn coolest thing. Because go to any other, why shouldn't all magazines be doing something to get their community talking? Answer number one, it freaks out the publishers and the creators and the producers of the thing because they realize, oh crap, these people have ideas and opinions too. Anybody in the room, and if you're afraid, it's okay, represent traditional mainstream media in some form or fashion. Yes, in what you do. Look at that. Good bunch. Anybody in traditional mainstream publications, making a newspaper, making a magazine, making a regular TV show. I'm not speaking for you, but I'll speak for what I think I know. That's all I ever do. I get some idea in my head, and it sounds like it's true. So it is. Mainstream media is not afraid of social media. Mainstream media just doesn't know what to do next with it. They're saying, well, we spent all this time making people make good content. We spent all this time finding good reporters, finding good producers, finding good people who create good content for us. We have great editors. We have people who understand editorial content. And we have an obligation that has nothing to do with the production of what goes in. Fast Company magazine does not do the world's 50 most innovatives because it's a good story. They do it because it sells magazines. That's what the business is. The business is to sell the magazine to get the ad sold so that they can keep saying to people like, I don't know what company, Jaguar. Does anyone here know anyone who has a Jaguar anymore? Is anyone in the room also a staunch conservative type? So that costs a lot of money. So the more they can sell of that, the better they do. That's the business of publication in the traditional media space. And yet, since their start, since before there were social networks, Fast Company was trying to get their people together. They did it on the ground with things called Company of Friends. And I used to stalk Heath Rowe. It was really hard to stalk before Twitter. But I used to stalk Heath Rowe, who was a big-time contributor to this magazine, and go to this Company of Friends socials. And somehow he was always never there when I was there. I don't know why. I like you. And it took me a while to meet him. It wasn't until he moved on to the company DoubleClick before he was willing to meet me. And then in a crowded space with a lot of people, and he called a few people beforehand. But no, what my point is that Fast Company has been all about trying to get their community together for a long time. But now, so if you think about this, since 2000, they've been in the business of trying to say that the people who are participating and even just consuming their magazine are important to them, so they gather them, they try to make message boards and all that. But now social networks have caught up such that they can empower you to write a blog post, and they're giving space on their front page to the people who are making this kind of stuff. Why is that interesting to me? It's interesting to me because it says that social. We're going to open this up to talking soon too. It's too quiet. It's interesting to me because it means that they've just totally bought into the idea that their community is the most important thing, but now they have the tools to do something with it. What comes next will be the coolest thing ever, and then who follows them next will be the third or fourth coolest next. Are you guys all like from the same podcast or group or class or something? I didn't mean to single you out, but I'm so excited you're here.
We kind of met online.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
Twitter.
So
He's the top Twitterer in Canada. So.
wait a minute. Is that Chris 24?
Yeah.
Nice!
You made him blush.
Wow. That's hard to make a teen guy blush. Yeah, oh, that doesn't work. You spend half your time running away from your parents. My real parents are secret agents. I don't know them. Do they still have secret agents? No, sorry. So my point, though, is you could teach me most of what you know, because you guys know more than I do. Is that going to wreck your camera? No. And I'm always grateful that, so people should spend time singling these guys out and finding them, because they know stuff we don't know how to do yet. I surely don't. I'm freaked out by you, Chris. I really am. People in the room who are making media in some form or other, put your hand up for a second. I'm so not a put your hand up guy, I really am not. People who aren't, but thinking maybe either they should be, their boss told them they should be, or it just seemed like a neat thing to do on a weekend, so they came. Anyone? Awesome. One person in this room is not lying. It's so easy to do now. It's so easy to make this media, this fine product. Isn't that expensive? It's not, cut out a couple of trips to Tim Hortons and you could start saving for one easy. Does everybody in the room have a cell phone? Yeah. Disclaimer, I am on the board of advisors for this particular product. If anyone ever uses something like Utters, you only need the number 2 to start making media. You push 2 on your phone. Ultimately, it's an answering machine. You talk into it. It goes online. It goes around, and everybody can hear it. You can talk back and forth to each other. It's awesome. But you just needed 2. Everyone in the room has a cell phone, and if you don't, sorry. But you push 2. Well, I learned a lot. I mean, I worked in the wireless business for a little while, and there are cultures that in Native American parts of the United States don't have power, don't have running water, but all have a mobile phone. And the reason is because that's how they can get business, and that's how they can do their work and call health people in and that.
The Amish now have cell phones.
Amish cell phones. Look at that. I don't want to start on.
No, but I mean, dead serious. We got our daughter this summer. We called the Amish guy on his cell phone.
Wow. That's see, the world's growing up. Who here is looking for more connectivity to their community? Are you all looking? I mean, I'm presuming that's why you're here. Otherwise, if you're here just because I'm here, that's a bad idea. There's some other really good sessions.
Oh, I should.
Get out. Starters to getting any kind of organization, or even yourselves, or building your community into using these kinds of tools. The most important tool, I always say, and it's really funny because in the world of media making, we're all about talking. The most important tool is listening. The most important tool is understanding what's being said out there, what's being said about you, your organization, that which you are passionate about. So learning, wow, it's Donna.
Sorry.
Good to see you. Start paying attention to how other people are speaking out there. And the ways you can do it is you can use Google Blog Search, which is blogsearch.google.com. You can use Delicious, which is, does everybody know what Delicious is, or do I have to spell it out? D-E-L dot, I'm sober, I-C-I-O.
Delicious.com.
Does it go there now? I wonder if they had to fight for that domain. Somebody got paid. And so these are tools that let you look and see what people are saying. But the way to use those tools isn't to go to those sites every time you hope someone is talking about you, or you hope someone's talking about your business or your competitor's business and all that. You've kind of caught on that there's this thing called RSS, and you understand how you put your information out into it for your blog or your podcast and all that. Well, Delicious and all those sites have the RSS feed for that search so that you can drop it all into a reader, so you can do something with it. And so you start to build a dashboard. Now, my reader of choice is Google Reader. I'll fight anyone in the room that their reader is better than my reader for speed, for accurate, for better processing, and for getting through a lot of data fast. I'll fight anybody. So we'll do that out in the hall later. But get your searches that you want to know about yourself, and I call it ego feeding, because my searches are for Chris Brogan, PodCamp, and then a few other business-related terms that I want to know who's talking about. And then every now and again I search for some of your names to figure out what people are saying about you. Not all of you, come on. They have that too, it's called the web. But listening is the most important thing that I try to teach people, because I think we're all in the room thinking we've got to figure out how to speak better. But if we're not listening, then we don't know what people are looking for. If we're not starting to participate in other people's media, we don't know what we're going to do that's different or better or interesting. Who in the room wants to recreate the same stuff everyone else has done for 50 years? Oh, not me. So I want to experience these things in different ways. I mean, this life casting thing, the fact you can use Ustream.tv and blogtv.com and Mogulus and Uvu and some others, you can now bring the web, quick on a N95, you can bring live streaming right into this place with a cell phone nowadays. It's not, the tools to equip a journalist, for instance, a news journalist, are down to like a Nokia N95 and a BlackBerry. You could just, if he has his battery belt on there, you could show off, all those tools in one quick small spot. So, by the way, another thing to take with you throughout the remainder of PodCamp, it's almost never going to be about the mic. Learning, you see, it's my Lance Armstrong. It's not about the mic. Learning about the tools is just how you convey your message and make the conversation happen. Learning about the tools is that's just literacy at this point. You can rate in the way that other people can read you. Doing something with the tools, moving people, asking people to do something, that's where it gets really cool really fast. So, has anyone in the room helped anybody in China? Oh, Whitney! Can you talk just a brief bit about that that session you did and how you put that all together?
Basically, I do the LD podcast, and it's all about learning and learning disabilities. And just real quickly, something came in my Google Reader, because I've got a bunch of things for learning disabilities there, about a lady in China who was setting up her own autism school, because apparently there's only 2 schools for kids with autism in all of China, and it started out, they only recognized it as a disability 2 years ago. But one of the things that's happened is you have the one child per couple policy came in about the late 70s. So since there's no social safety net there, if you have a child with a disability that you don't know about until they get to be, let's say, 2 or 3, not only as you no longer have your 401k, you don't have any siblings to take care of that child as they get older, and there's nowhere for them to go. So there's a lot of parents who are trying to start their own schools, but it's really expensive to do the one-on-one training and everything else. This woman was saying she's trying to raise $10,000 US to get a farm so the kids have a place to go after they're out of school. And I sat there and said, you know, this is a really great cause, but what can I do about it? And I remembered I have a friend who I grew up with in Rochester, who actually works in the embassy of Beijing. So I said, okay, well, let me send Eric an email and see if this is okay and it checks out. Turns out it did. We went ahead and started a chip-in program. You guys can go, if you look Machin, China, Autism School, whatever, you can go right there. We've already raised over $700. CC Chapman is donating half of his proceeds from the Uvu Day thing, so another $750 is coming. You know, whatever we can give her is great. We can wire the money directly towards her, and I'm covering all the costs. But, you know, whatever we can give her, here's another mom on the other side of the planet who's trying to do something to make sure that these children have a future. And it was something that, you know, basically set up in about a day and a half, and I'm feeding the blog feeds and everything else. But to get that much money in, you know, $5 and $10 and $20 donations has been pretty good. And it feels good to be able to do something and really make a difference. So if anybody's interested in contributing, that's great. It ends March 22nd.
And what's really sexy about that story is all the sort of new media connector points to that. Whitney got out this email, there's been Twitters, there's Zubu. We started using these platforms. It turns out it's not just about me. It turns out you can use these things to help other people. And so Beth Cantor, another friend of ours, said that she was trying to send this girl to, sorry, I'm trying to connect to the Wi-Fi at the same time, send this Cambodian girl who she sponsored most of her life to college. I said, really? Well, that's pretty cool. She goes, yeah, it's $1,000 to send her to college. $1,000 US. I said, well, crap, we can raise that. How much did you raise? She said, well, 500 in the last 24 hours. I said, well, we got you. So in 2 hours, Twitter raised the other 500. Not Twitter the company, Twitter the us. And I said to everybody, hey, can you give $10? Sure. And we spread the word out, and everybody got her done. Then Beth got really depressed because she's like, crap, we just raised that in like 2 hours. We should ask for more money. So by the way, anyone in the room thinking of fundraising, always think of that. But here's how that worked. It didn't work because everyone wants to give to a good cause. We all want to give to a good cause. It worked because of a couple things. One, and this is social network starter kit stuff. One, we started by saying, you can make the difference. You are the difference. Do you know why podcasting is cool? That's the same reason. Because no one has to be granted the authority to do this. If you have a cell phone and you can push 2, you can do it. If you have a Mac, you can do it really easy. If you have a PC, ask a Mac guy, and it's really easy. It's really easy to make this stuff happen. And no one has to say you have to or can or whatever. There's no permission between you and getting it done. I got in a brawl with this girl at PodCamp Pittsburgh, and she was mad because there's a glass ceiling in podcasting, she said. I said, oh, right, I forgot that the top podcasters were Amber Mack, Veronica Belmont. We could just keep going for a while. I just ran out of them. Molly Wood, Freshtopia, what's her name?
It's cool.
Why not? Too many people recording this, I'm not saying. Good guy, funny laugh. So, we get stuff done. These tools make things happen, and it doesn't take any effort to do it. A coworker's best friend's sister died, and they said, we got to set up some kind of a page where they can do remembrance and stuff. So this other guy goes, okay, I'll go set up an IIS server, and he goes running down the hall. I went on the WordPress, I typed the girl's name in, .wordpress.com, done, enter, pick the template, done, it's up. Sorry, let's put photos on it. We're done. It's 25 seconds approximately, except I spelled her name wrong and had to delete them all. But that's We are the change. There is no one coming to save you. You are the change that's going to happen. You already are. So you can not choose to do something with that. You can not choose to engage the community, or you can find the leverage point to do it. It's not find somebody to get big name out anymore. It's find the right people who will do it and get the momentum going, so then you can just prove it. We sent a girl to college, and then we sent a couple more people to college after the fact on $10 a pop. So what's that? A large triple and some Timbits, and you're done. Some girls in college. You've got to feel cool about yourself when you do that. It's really nice in social networks. In a way, this plays to what's called social engineering, which is how hackers get your passwords and things. Or that's one way that we think of social engineering. It's cool in social networks that the more we help people feel good about themselves, the more they do good things. So in all of the things that you're doing with your media, with the things that you're making, you have an opportunity to reach out to people and empower them. Because hopefully, because of the fact you've already got your thing up and running, you're already just created something from which you can empower other people. I swear to God, I have nothing else to say about that. I'd love to do question and answer stuff. And then if we have like tons of time, we should all break off and find other stuff to do that's cool. Like we haven't reached 10:45, like the starting point of the class. We could get a whole other session in here. But let's do some questions or something, Dave.
Chris, I just wanted to ask you to talk about cancer, because I think, with Twitter and relationship building on Twitter and knowing the people that you're following, those relationships build. And I mean, I knew Chris on Twitter before I knew him in the flesh. And I think it was before that cancer charity thing, I chipped into that because you tweeted that. Like, I would have thought probably that could have been a scam. But because Chris tweeted that, I knew that he knew that it was authentic. And so
I didn't know.
Why? Oh.
That's good for next time.
Yeah. But I mean, keep that in mind, dude.
No, Beth knew the girl.
But that's why I chipped in, because you tweeted that, and I know and trust you on Twitter and in person. So there's a big thing about Twitter too.
What you take away from that is that your reputation matters more than anything else. So if you ever decide to go down the road of doing some kind of scam or not disclosing the things that you're doing, for example, if someone sends you a Nokia N95 and you just start using it but don't much say that, you just talk about how great the phone is, but you didn't much say that Nokia sent it to you to evaluate, that's not so good. You never, I shouldn't say never, but you quite often don't recover once somebody figures out you're a scam. Lonely Girl 15, some people are still big on the show, but the demo went up into the toilet and then kind of up a little because the show is interesting-ish, so people do it. People hate being like that, though. It's just not ever a good feeling. Hi.
Hello.
How are you? We're almost done. No. Like, we started really early because Jay spoke really fast, and evidently so did I. Any questions at all? Like, anyone who thought they were learning about social media, and see, I had to write it because I didn't remember what I was speaking about. Social media and networking starter guide. What other questions do you have about going from just making your blog, your podcast, your photo blog, your whatever, into going bigger?
Can you just tell us what Uvu is?
What is Uvu? Well, that's good. I mean, to Eden's point, you'll know about it by the end of the day. Let's get it out of the way. Uvu, it's OOVOO.com, is a software application that is a video conversation application. It allows up to 6 users to simultaneously chat back and forth on the web through a desktop client that allows you to add in other speakers. So it's like Skype, a little shinier, and still getting some bugs worked out. If you're a Mac user, not as good as if you're a PC user. Because nobody in the room is a Mac-type user and evangelist and blogs and stuff like that. So let's make the PC guy happier first. Because, they're so fast to, get out the word. I'm not bitter. But it's a chat thing. And Whitney was on with us. And
well, I mean, I think the point was, you made a point a long time ago that the eyesight camera and the Mac is really going to change the conversation. And I was amazed when we were doing the Uvu Day stuff how clear the pictures from the Mac users actually were with the eyesight camera and how crappy the pictures were from the people using PC, which I thought was just amazing.
I agree with you, but I'm a Mac guy. Oh, by the way,
I drank the Kool-Aid last March and got a new laptop.
By the way, I'm not a PC hater. I just play one on PodCamp. Is anybody here geeky enough to listen to the Escape Pod podcast, Stephen Neely? Woo! There we go. The nerdest of the nerd. Full page ad in Fast Company magazine this month. I almost crash landed the airplane I was on when I saw that. I sort of yelled holy something that I don't want to say out loud. And I was like, he bought a full page ad in Fast Company? And boy, 3 things went through my mind really fast. How much is that? Maybe I could get one. Second one was, good for you, Steve Ely. Third one is, I don't get it. But that's okay because his URL's at the bottom and we can get there. But look, a podcaster, one of us, bought a full page ad in Fast Company magazine. So everybody who cares about Kumbaya Dude from Google, the CIO who doesn't wear shoes and all that, also gets to learn about Stephen Ely's show. How kick-ass is that?
But did he pay for it?
I gotta hope he did.
I don't think
You got a freebie? Well, he met with those guys.
he did. What's he doing for them to get that in there?
Maybe it's sponsored by PR.
So, but what about the thing Blogger and Podcaster has? They've got a special going on.
Oh, with USA Today?
Yeah, with USA Today. You can get your stuff on USA Today's website and get your podcast listed for $25 a month.
So, yeah, the thing about the, I'm getting a kick. The thing about this is you can shoot pictures and stuff like that without any more effort than this. So one thing, yeah, look, I got a good snowball there. One of the, well, there's a few things that are really fun about that to me. One is that my kids love it more than me. So I always come home to 7,000 photos of my child. Variations of. But the other is that, the barrier to getting a message out is so much smaller. Anybody in the room heard of Seismic already? Or are using Seismic or whatever? Seismic is some people call it the video version of Twitter. I call it, if you have a lot of time to kill, you can actually spend some time watching the conversation happen. But what I like is the mix that they do. They do a thing and they put it out on YouTube called Seismix, which is somebody's job in the offices at Seismic to take some of the conversations and make it into a show. That's kind of interesting. Because what happens is that nobody's producing that show. The memes just kind of start out there and something happens and somebody says, I'm going to fry some eggs. And somebody else goes, oh, good, I'll make the coffee. And they start producing a video out of nowhere by mistake. And then it looks cooler when it's all done like they meant to do. So it's a neat social networking tool because it permits that sort of, hi, Jay. It sort of permits that that conversation to happen. And that's, again, somebody can have this ripped up Fast Company. The conversation part of this all and or the relationship, the engagement, the PR, to your point, it's just right there. It's built and ready to take care of, and you can use it. And so you can use it the old-fashioned way. You could try to blurt and bullhorn to people, or you can try to mix it up and get more people to do stuff. Hi.
I just wanted to mention something because you were talking about the Amish and cell phones and stuff. There was a piece in Wired magazine several years ago that I thought was quite wonderful because what it pointed out was that the Amish aren't adverse to technology. They're adverse to technology that decays community. And their feeling was that cell phones, in certain instances outside of a house, you can't have it in your house, outside of a house, actually increase community and therefore was a useful technology to adopt.
That's a really good point. Cell phones helped take down a good lot of the U.S. military's efforts in Somalia. These people had no weapons, but they had cell phones, so they could just repeatedly call in the air. And so the helicopters flying by, done. And they defended part of their struggle with cell phones. I find that a bizarre, just the same thing we text to say, where you at, brother? And trying to want to get some lunch is the same thing that helped $16 billion product flying in the air and they could stop it. Any other social networking starter? Hi, Luke.
Hi, how are you doing?
Cello Journey, people. CelloJourney.com.
Yeah, I have a question here, because at the beginning you mentioned that who here has a blog, and some people said have a partial blog, and I sometimes get a feeling that, I do too, I have a partial blog. And for example, you're doing a lot of stuff at the same time, kind of like blogging, some video. What's the benefit of going, not kind of shying away? Like, some people jump in a little bit and they do like a little bit, but they're afraid to do another one. What's the deal with like doing more than one thing? It's really.
What's the benefit of doing more than one thing? That's a great question. One, so text is so much faster to read, and you can do it in a lot of places where you can be discreet. So for example, at my office, I can blast through tons and tons and tons of blogs without anyone thinking I'm doing anything different than checking my email. Even though in my job, it's my business to do that. In a lot of people's jobs, not so much. But on the other side of that, it's just faster. I can consume it. I can do more things to store it and do something with it after the fact. And yet, presence and being there and seeing how I say something, you know, I could write, Luke, you have a really good podcast. Or I could say, Luke, you have a really good podcast. And, you know, it means something totally different. The transcript said the same thing. So there's that. But no, the reason I also make media is, like the reason I'm screwing around with udders a lot is because it's on a cell phone. So you can drive around listening to a bunch of audio in a row and keep hitting the doodad. I keep hoping people make better udders because I think that if I hear one more person talk about their walking around in the grocery store, wondering what to buy, I'll kill myself and then them. In that order. I hope that works. But so to me, the purpose and the value of making you're never going to win. The purpose of making all the I did that to the poor guy last year. It wasn't you though. He had different hair. The value of using all those different media pieces is because you can reach different audiences, you can connect with them in different ways, and they can participate in different ways. Why is Twitter cool? Anyone in the room just hate Twitter and not get it, or you don't have to even say you hate it. You're just not a big fan.
I don't get it. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Blows my mind. But I'm not singling you out because a lot of people don't get it, and it's a 6-month curve between when you start it and you're like,
You'll get there.
and then suddenly you get it. Julian Smith, by the way, the 6-month curve rule of thumb. Yeah. That was last night. One of my best takeaways.
Yesterday, I was connected to Twitter on my mobile phone, nothing else, and all of a sudden I knew where the party was. I knew what time it was happening at. He just arrived at the airport. I was like connected to the Matrix. It was unbelievable. You guys are laughing, but it's not a fucking joke. It was incredible what happened to me. It was like a fucking breakthrough. This is it. It's happening right now. I felt it. Probably the way people felt when they connected to Blogger for the first time. And they were like, wow, I can publish my own thoughts. Same thing happened
With Twitter.
Well, what about the CC story?
Oh yeah.
You
Well,
have to remember to turn notifications on so you get it on before.
There we go.
well, and that's. I mean, you can choose how you consume it. Like for example, my choice of how to use it here is I use the, well, not in Canada, in general. I use the m.twitter.com while I'm traveling, but it's hard because you can only see about 6 or 7 responses at a time. If you're following 3,000 some odd people, it gets tricky. But there are times, so C.C. Chapman, if you guys have heard the name, is a new media type guy in the New England space, was stranded at an airport, and what happened was his luggage went on without him, and he had his family and his kids, and it was cold of winter, and everything took off, and he was stranded at JFK with no idea what to do next. He was fried because it had been like 20-something hours, and it was like a ridiculous amount of travel. He was fried and just kind of bent, had no idea what to do. People suddenly on Twitter just started sourcing where to go, what to do. Jeff Pulver sent him a car. We got him over to a local Target so they could get like toothbrushes and jackets and crap like that. It was all through Twitter. Now, that's so noble sounding, but I use Twitter all the time because I get lost everywhere. There's Google Maps on my phone now, which is awesome, with where you roughly are on the cell tower. But I was walking in Manhattan, and I was like going down the street, and I'm going, I'm not really sure where I am. Walking in Manhattan, somewhere on 10th, no idea where I am. I'm going to this restaurant. It was just like the movie The Matrix. I get a call from New Media Jim in Washington, D.C. He's like, dude, it's going to be up on the left-hand side. You're probably going to come up on a set of lights soon. I'm like, I see the lights. He goes, turn left, and then it's across the street on the right, I think. There it is. The dude's in D.C. It's like he put his daughter to bed. And he's just like Googling and crap, and he's Twittering, and he's like, oh, I'll help Rogan. That happens to me all the time. If I had actually somehow managed to connect to the Wi-Fi, which I didn't, I would have made Twitter call us or something. I would have just... It responds. And how does it respond is that you hopefully respond to other people and you do something and you connect and communicate and you bring the value along. Is it Maslow's law? Which is the law with the value of the more people make the better the network?
Metcalfe's
Thank you. Thank you, law people.
Can I just make a Twitter interjection?
Sure.
While you're talking about the value of Twitter, I've been just trying to figure out how we can aggregate the tweets about Podcast Toronto.
Well, there's actually a software that does it, but we broke it.
Well, I'm using a simpler hack.
Okay.
We're just doing the at Podcast Toronto, preface with at Podcast Toronto, and I will link on the wiki and the blog page to the feed that has all Podcast Toronto's tweets and anyone that directs to Podcast Toronto.
Oh, cool.
Just in the process of doing
Twitter
that.
feed that back to.
Sorry, Russell, then Dave?
What is really the best way to use Twitter then to promote your podcast? I've always got the impression, oh, this is just social media. It's just a big IM chat room, blah, 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 blah. True. No offense, guys.
I'm with you.
But how do you channel that whole whack of people talking about whack stuff into, hey, here's my podcast, listen to it, it's fun?
First, I say you don't. And the reason I say you don't is because then that's advertising, or that's, that's not sort of hand-feeding that relationship.
Okay.
No one knows you, and you followed like 70 people, and they've chosen to follow you back, and next thing you know, you start blurting out your podcast. You have like 3 followers pretty soon. I don't follow anybody's podcast feed because I don't care. Like, I have something for that. They call it RSS. I've chosen to subscribe to you. But to answer the question a slightly and less asshole-ish way. All right, smart guys. Montreal. No, it was 514. Isn't 514 Montreal?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it wasn't
Quebec.
Mitch Jones.
Oh, I think a lot of guys. Screw him. He's going to 10 or something.
Dave just sent out. He's watching.
Oh, I hung up on whoever it was. I'm sure they're nice. Yeah, I play a game with Twitter. I'll get back to Russell in a second. I play a game with Twitter called Call Chris. It's my favorite. I just give my phone number out on Twitter and hope people call me, and I get great conversations. Sometimes I'm lucky to get wit. Oh, now it's all happening. All right, hang on. Hi, this is Chris. Who's this? Hey, Mitch, how you doing? Mitch Joel. How are you?
Probably watching.
I'm good. Hey, I'll put you on speaker, but I doubt it's that loud. Oh, you're watching me live? I didn't realize it was live. Hi, Mitch Joel. If I knew you were watching, I would have done so much better.
Yeah, no, you're doing a good job there. You're doing a good job. I just wanted to prove the power of Twitter, my friend.
You are the power of Twitter. Yeah. Everybody round for Mitch Joel. All right, Mitch, we'll let you go.
All right, guys, have a great time. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. No better presenter than Joel. Kick-ass guy. See, that's the thing, like with me and Penn. Chris Penn would go everywhere and give everybody this awesome information, and everyone's writing notes feverishly, and they go home and they like can do something with it. And me, they go, he's such a nice guy. That's all I get. Oh, so Twitter. So I don't promote anything of the podcast. What I do is I might say I asked people about ads or whether or not to have them on my blog, and I got some really interesting comments, and I put a link. You don't have to follow it. I don't care. But I give you the messaging of what the conversation is, and that makes the choice. It's way different than Rambling with Russell 12 now released, because I don't care.
Okay, so here's a situation for you. Say I have a guest.
You have a guest.
I have a guest.
Thank you, everyone. Try the meal.
Say I have a guest on who's a semi-world famous author.
Ah, yes, I've heard of those.
Yes. Whose genre is, say, fantasy fiction.
That's why he's semi-world famous.
And anyway,
Keep going.
If I say what on Twitter and I said, hey, he's on this episode, blah, blah, but if I said, how to threw up a Twitter conversation on, say, the state of fantasy fiction these days, or who are people's favorite authors, kind of threw that out.
There you go.
Is that the better way of...
I think it is because, why don't you guys agree or disagree? Is that a good way to get people to understand what's going on in a conversation? Hi, Virgil Evans.
As a sometimes spammer, sometimes information sharer person, try them all. Because this is Twitter. Everyone here doesn't know anything. And some people might be upset. No, in all honesty, some people might say the first way works. Like, I've used Twitter to spam blog posts, and I've watched my posts go up for that day really well. That's great. The site gets lots of traffic, and I'm like, oh, I did this really cool post, you got to read it. And I've had people say, like, don't send me that kind of stuff. I'm not in this environment for that experience. I say, okay, fine, I accept that, whatever. But then other times, if it's a conversation and I happen, like we were talking about, like Apple and Apple Video, and Apple just sent this email saying, if you want your stuff to work on Apple TV, you've got to do these things. So we were talking about it. It's like, oh, I got an email about that. Let me do a blog post. So I'm direct messaging back and forth with some people. Put a blog post. Didn't tell it to anyone. Just put it there. And then it kept the conversation going. And the people who wanted to find out were like, oh, thanks for doing that, blah, 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 on Twitter. Like, it was all back and forth. But there's no wrong. And if someone gives you static for doing it, so what? It's not serious business. It's just the internet.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there was an etiquette or a rule about it.
Try it.
You'll find out when you have no followers.
Yeah.
Right. Me, and then I'm sorry. And then after Mark.
And that's all blog posts. If you start twittering about his lunch, it'd be very, very weird to have a trend hunter start putting like lunch posts in his Twitter feed. Just like expectations early, and everyone will be fine.
Yeah, I think for me, I now have lots of friends up here in Canada and friends on the East Coast and the West Coast, and Twitter is a way to sort of keep up with everything that's going on with them in kind of an ambient attention kind of way. So, I can find out what's going on with Sonia, who I haven't seen since Podcasters Across Borders, and know what she's doing and what's going on in her life. And then when I see her, it's like, oh, hey, what's going on with a new job or, whatever. And it's a way to really keep in contact with people without necessarily taking up their cycles by giving them a cell phone thing, or sometimes, IM's okay, but you're in the middle of a project or whatever else. I can keep up. I know that if I need to get a hold of Chris, he's at some conference because he Twittered about it, so I know that I'm not going to get him about that then. And it's the office and the water cooler and everything else. I think the biggest problem is making sure once you dip your toe in the stream, you don't fall in and spend hours there not doing what you need to do.
Oh yeah, you can lose yourself. Mark?
Just the etiquette thing about putting out a message. My show is about scrapbooking. My wife does it. And we got a very niche demographic, 30 to 50-year-old women, stay-at-home moms who stick in forums. So that's where I need to be able to talk to them. But if you go to a forum and say, hi, my show's up, you get stopped down by the forum because you're not allowed to advertise here. But if you go to that same forum and one of the moms says, I need to know about this tool, and you go, oh, well, I have a tutorial about this tool, and you can find it here. Oh my God, they jump right all over you.
Totally different, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same, I could have said the same topic 2 different ways. But the one way I got banned, and the other way, I'm the biggest savior. So it really depends on where you're going and how you phrase it.
Mr. Snowball.
I know for me, like for my podcast, I need to act like I know Twitter. I used it for trying to get recordings for specific for my podcast, basically episode recaps. And I was under the gun. I had to release it within about a day, and I had no one. And so I put it out on Twitter. And basically, I had a fan from Ireland. Basically, within 5 minutes, recorded it and sent it to me, and it was ready to go. And I would never have been able to connect with someone like that without Twitter. So
It works out. Hi.
I think it's about giving value back to the community. And I've never used Twitter, but I just signed up 5 minutes ago. And as a creative way, I actually wrote my first post, and it says, I'm at PodCamp 2008 Toronto with Chris Brogan. It's 10:51, and he's about to answer my question about what is engagement. Stay tuned.
You got that all in 140 characters?
Yeah, one character left.
So what is your username?
Click Ryan.
Click Ryan?
Yeah.
So everybody follow Click Ryan.
So what I'm wondering is if you can tell me what the word engagement means.
So engagement, the notion of engagement as used in this context, especially with social networks and social media, is the notion that I've at least gotten you over that nodding your head hump with me. And you have said, okay, I get kind of where Chris is going, or I usually don't. But I get that he's going to say something that I might find interesting or not, and I'll stick in with it, and that he's going to try to engage me back. I spend all of my time, anytime I write a blog post, I spend all of my time thinking, how do I get the people who are out there paying attention to pay content into the blog? How do they write? How do they become the community? If I could, the only one thing I would change about blogging right now is I want comments. I guess this is what forums are, and I guess it's probably too messy for me, but I want comments to sometimes have the weight of a blog post on my blog. And so someday I'll figure out there's probably a WordPress plugin I've not yet found. Anyone? That promotes a comment to look like it's a blog post on my blog. But the reason I do that, click Ryan, is...
Control-C, Control-V.
What's that?
Copy and paste. The easiest thing.
Oh, come down. Copy paste is for to get it done, evidently. The reason is Because I'm hoping to move. I always hope with technology to not be about technology. I always hope to be about the thing that you can get done. So in this space, all I'm trying to do is educate and elevate and empower, such that you use those tools to go get done what you want to get done. Because I really, honestly, I love cello music. Have you heard of Zoe Keating? Is that her name? I'll make you listen to her. But I want Luke to be successful because I think that other people who like cello can go find Luke and do that. But I don't want to go write about cello music. I just listen to it. I like it. So my goal is that everybody comes up. So that's my goal. That's my engagement goal, is to get you going, oh, I can do that, can't I? Or that's the stupidest thing I ever heard, but I just got a better idea and I'm going to go do that. So engagement. Okay, so if I answered this a whole different way, if PR and advertising people ask me the question of what engagement is, Scott Monty of Crayon got so many people to get involved with this Uvu thing, the My Uvu Day project. I don't really know how he got us to do it. Like, I said, okay, and then didn't realize how much it would be. Like, you have to, like, I had to connect to all the people to chat with and all that, and it was a bit of work to sort of manage the boards and actually drive the conversation. But he got everybody. I mean, he got, like, all these social media types to do this thing with Uvu. And the reason he did was because we know him from Twitter, we know him from social media meetups, we know him from coming to podcamps. So the more he pays into the community, to your point and what you're going to tweet there, the more touch points you make, the more you pitch into the community, the more you can take out. It's like the emotional bank account thing from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Still a good book this many years later. Somebody else want to ask or say? Oh, Dave, I owed you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're persistent, though, because you're PR.
No, I actually, I have a question that I got from someone on Twitter.
Great.
Tara Solori down in Texas.
Who in Texas?
Tara Solori.
Oh, okay.
So she wants to know, what do you tell corporate people who've tried blogs and have no conversation, and then because of that fail to see the urgency of all this stuff in the meeting?
I'm sorry, what do I tell corporate people who have tried blogs and
tried stuff and failed and then just don't?
I guarantee it's the content. I guarantee it is me, or we, or our product, not why you came to the blog. When I sit down, okay, this audience probably doesn't know Tony Khan. He's a public radio guy in the States. You know? Oh, that makes me feel good. He's a public radio guy in the States. He's got like 30-something plus years of experience. When I met him, there's this beautiful trait that some people have and I lack poorly and wish I had. And it's called really good presence. And so like when I'm talking to you, you feel like there's nothing else happening besides I'm just talking to you. You feeling that? Right. Tony Khan does this in rooms with thousands of people. Everyone thinks he's talking just to them. And he said that when he records his podcast, when he records any of his audio, he's been doing it for 30-something years, he gets up close to the mic and he talks to someone he loves as if he's telling them something that he thinks is important and really just wants to get out and explain to them. And in so doing, he engages them because he's talking to them, with them, through them. Sound like Catholic Mass for a minute. In the unity of the... But that's the thing. So I'm going to guarantee, if I went and looked at the blog posts, it would be about how damn skippy my software is or how amazing my corporation is.
To that point, my background is radio, and one of the things I find tough with listening to a lot of podcasts is I feel like I'm being talked at. It's one of the first things when you're talking to people, you say talk with, not at. And one of the things I've always told students is, depending on what your subject matter is, have a picture of someone who brings that quality out of you. So you may have someone who you always laugh with, someone who always makes, and you're talking with that kind of thing. Have that person in front of you and tell that story. And you may have another story where your grandmother's a corporate. And it changes without doing anything else, any of the production values or anything else. It changes your entire tone of quality.
That is the coolest advice. I'm sure some people maybe didn't hear it. You take a photo of like somebody who matters to you and actually look at that photo while you're doing your recording, and it changes the way that you're speaking. I totally love that.
You know,
I've never done that.
Now, you know, it's funny, to that point, at PAB 2 years ago, at Podcast Across Borders, Sheila Rogers from CBC spoke. And she spoke directly about that, about speaking to one person rather than all of you, the audience. And what was really funny is that afterwards, like every podcaster, every podcaster who was there or had listened to that podcast, suddenly everybody was doing that. So I found myself doing that too. I was like, and I'd say, "You guys are awesome" or something. I'd be like, "Oh, I mean, you're awesome," and like everybody was correcting themselves. So it's a great point. It's a really good tip.
I love that. Ravel.
one other point though. Say the content is perfect. Say you present yourself. Say you're professional and you're in marketing and you know how to present yourself and you know how to, frame a conversation and stuff. But still hasn't taken off. Well, there is discovery, and discovery gets harder and harder as we go on because the content seed just keeps growing and growing and growing. So don't discount that you might have something great. People just haven't discovered it. And one thing that social media has helped, before there was just Google, right? And you needed somebody to help you with that SEO and all that stuff. But now you can just join a conversation. So you just don't stand in the middle of the square and start shouting at the top of your lungs. You have to join a conversation. You have to go to where the people are that you're interested in. You join that conversation, and if you have good things to say, they'll come to you and they'll follow you. They'll vote with their feet, and they will discover your content.
Hi, Adele.
Via Twitter, question from Mitch Joel.
Oh,
He says, someone asked Chris Brogan this question, how do you think the trust economy will evolve as more and more people get into these channels?
Wow. Julian, could you just stand for just 1 second? Because when how do you think the trust economy will evolve? Julian and I are working on something that came out of PodCamp Toronto last year in the same exact room, I think it was. You were there. Yeah, no, yeah, if you want.
Up against the wall.
So I want you to help answer that question. Can you repeat the question? How do you think the trust economy will evolve?
How do you think the trust economy will evolve as more and more people get into these channels?
Oh, that's a really. Do you have something?
Relationships. Speaking as not necessarily an expert, but relationships in regular life are natural, and you start to feel over time, like you just as an infant, you may not understand it, but as you become an adult and you start to understand more people, you're like, oh, he's more of an 8 out of 10, and then it becomes even more varied than that and even more gray. And it's every relationship I have with every single person is like a shade that is unique, right? My relationship with you is different from my relationship with Chris, etc.
Right.
And so all we're doing on the web is, I think, trying to find the way to properly emulate a real human relationship. And we're getting closer and closer to doing that. I don't know, Mitch is going to be pissed because he's not going to be able to hear this.
Well, talk to you are.
Mitch, yo. So, but yeah, so we're just trying to emulate human relationships, and we're getting closer and closer to being able to do that in a real, genuine way. Like we have all these kind of technology. Are you calling me, you stupid fucker?
It says unknown numbers.
So ultimately, we're trying to get closer to that. We're being able to do it and trying to make the conversation synchronous and trying to make the conversation real and trying to make it, public the way we do now. Like we're talking, but there's other people that hear. That's the Twitter aspect. There's all these different aspects to it. We're getting closer and closer to doing it. So that's the answer to the question.
All right, I'll tweet that back.
And so, get going on that, Adele. 140 characters. And my sort of follow-on to that answer, I like your answer, Julian. My follow-on to that answer is, and it's people who do PR well and people who do marketing well are great people. There is an abundance of people who do not. There are also abundance of people who are using the same thing that worked wonderfully 15 years ago. Does anyone in the room still use a computer from 15 years ago and is really happy with it? Don't raise your hand. Nerds are excluded because we just think that's cool. The same things don't work over time. The same movies don't work. The same television doesn't work. After the Nixon era, people couldn't look at media the same way. People couldn't look at government the same way. In the States, I'm sorry, I'm sure there's a Canadian answer to the same thing. But Nixon was such an asshole that went everywhere anyway, right? So after the stuff going on at the end of the 60s, we had to change the way we created advertising. We had to change the way we did television. Before that time, married couples on television didn't sleep in the same bed because that wasn't cool. What? Watching the Brady Bunch, it was almost like a revolution because they actually were in the same bed. I understand this doesn't play in this room because the Brady Bunch isn't so here. But the answer, a trust economy and relationship economy, is all about the notion that you've got to get closer to being more real. You've got to get closer to disclosing what. I mean, the first thing I said before I said a word about others is that I happen to be on the board of advisors. By the way, that right now is worth $0. I hope they make billions because then it'll be worth some money. But really all that means is I get to bitch and moan about their product, and if it sucks, I say it sucks. If they say, we're going to do this thing, is that a good idea? I say, oh God, no, that's a bad idea. This is what the community might say about that. Oh, didn't think that. But disclosure and that sort of thing becomes important. Communicating what really matters, but bringing value to Ryan's point. It's Ryan. It's very important to bring value to the conversation in a way that wasn't very important before. It used to be just okay to say, this is a cool thing, go buy it. Or, you know, I really wish more people knew about my thing. But now it's, I wish more people knew about my thing because they're really they're gonna reach out and do some stuff back. And this is the community they impact, and these are the people that they impact. And it's a lot more, the web makes this so much easier. I feel like stealing a Larry Weber story. Weber Shamwick, Larry Weber, who now is, I don't remember which one he's in now, the W2 group. He was talking about this friend of the family. He tells this story all the time, so if you ever meet him, I apologize because you'll hear the story. A friend of the family had a son, and he was one of those guys who would email little updates about the son all the time through his life, and oh, he just finished 8th grade, and it was great, and oh, he's going off to high school, great. We got him a scholarship at some big-ass university, that's great. And then there's a big, you know, dead air for a bunch of months. And then there's sort of the fess up email where they say, well, he kind of dropped out of college. He decided he was going to take the summer off, and we had bought him a video camera the Christmas before. And he decided to take the summer off and go up to some place out in Colorado and do fishing with some friends. So he's just out there fishing right now. He's taking a break to find himself. And then another email comes about 3 months later. Well, he's still finding himself out there. He hasn't come back, but can you send a new video camera? And so, you know, his dad's wondering what kind of business this gentleman's in that he's using all these video cameras out in the middle of Colorado. Well, a couple more emails come, and then he says, Dad, I have this problem. I've been hanging out with these really cool guys, and they love to fish, and I've been going to all these cool spots, and I know all these great spots to fish, and we've been shooting videos and talking tricks about how to get these fish. And it's been, you know, I got this website going, and it's pretty cool. I'm liking it. I'm having a fun time, but LL Bean called, and they want to give me $1 million to sponsor the chat room. Is that is that enough money? Is that too much? They wanted to buy the chat room part for $1 million. Those stories are ubiquitous now. They're just not happening to us in the room yet, or we wouldn't be coming here, wasting our time. It's my favorite thing. But he didn't go out there to go make $1 billion. He went out there because he was digging fishing, and he went out there to shoot video with the guys digging fishing because he was passionate about it. You are passionate about geeky things. Of course I could ask you comic book stuff right now. You'd know it. Done. Right? Everybody in this room has something they're insanely passionate about. It's this whole lie that everyone tells you your whole life, if you follow your passion, the money will come. It's getting so much closer to being true. If you had just one more book to review, you could start talking about how, you know, the miracle of reading with your children and the good stuff versus the bad stuff, and why Walter the Farting Dog is a good book, and, you know, don't leave it on the shelf. Do you disagree? We'll have to talk about that. Social media allows shy people to hide a little bit differently than they used to. Twitter allows you to hide for a little bit longer and still follow the flow and feel like you're part of it. And it warms you up to feeling like you know someone that you can break out and say something to them. That's a cool thing. Because there's a lot of shy people. I forget that because I'm not all that shy. Except when I'm somewhere where I don't know anyone. So the big first trick I do whenever I go to a conference is I Twitter the hell out of it to try to find anybody who's there. Because if I get any one person who might know me, I'm okay. It's my wingman.
I think Click Ryan now has 19 followers.
Yeah. We can do better than that. So I can't get on Twitter, or I'd make it happen. But can someone make Click Ryan 100 followers?
How many new followers?
19.
That's 20.
That's just
that's just from this room.
No one else knows me outside this
I'm in a position where I'm trying to convince.
Oh, we're going to know a lot more about you now.
Employees who are trying to build careers at the same time as have young kids and everything else, that social media is worth the investment. And the answer that keeps coming back is, I just don't have time, which is certainly reasonable. But that's, so it's like, if you had, and I'd ask it to the group, if you had 3 things to say to this group of people to say it's worth the time, it'll make your life easier, what would you say?
Wow, so social media gave me the last 2 jobs I got. It's brought me in contact with anybody I've ever wanted to meet so far. I haven't met.
Starting point.
Yeah.
Your starting point, what are the 3 things you would do?
All right, so to get engaged, to get involved?
that'll make your, in the long run, is the investment?
Okay, so one of the things, and we have mommy blogger types in the room, and I don't really like that term because it seems in some ways dismissive. But WIT contributes a great deal to the GNM Parents blog, and also your LD podcast deals a lot with that kind of content. So we have like real live, and you have your podcast about children's books and all that. So there's people in the room who represent that demographic. So to start.
But if it's not about children, that's the challenge
It's about them?
we're having. If it's about them and it's about their careers and it's about, and not to say that their children are vitally important, but would you say then that part of the answer is start with people?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. So I tried this concept because I had, in 2006, did we do it? When did we do Career Mom Radio?
Oh God, it was before Podcast Informed.
It was. So early 2006 I thought about that, so I bought the domain careermomradio.com. And the idea was that we were going to do an audio podcast all by moms who had either chosen to go back to the workforce and were trying to figure out their entry back in, who had decided to stay out of the workforce and now wanted to have that connection point, or the ones who, I don't remember, there was a third person, there was a third demo there. And the idea was that we'd all connect and talk about these things and what it's like to be a mom. I think the idea was good. The problem was I was getting a lot of first-time non-technological people to try to contribute parts of a podcast. Not so clever, because there was a lot of editing and work to that. No levels, no nothing. I mean, it was before Levelator had been made. I mean, that would have changed my life a little right there. And I mean, I was spending so much time editing audio and clearing up just so one mommy in Glasgow, who I won't name, was like, it's hot in my house, so I have my fan on as I'm recording. So you hear, brrr, Erica, brrr, Bob, and she'd send it in. I'd say, oh, that's great. I'm gonna die. So to your point, so I think blogging is a little tricky for a mom to get away, or someone who's trying to work that into their time frames. I think that making audio is easier. I think video is getting so easy. That flip camera, often called the soccer mom cam, sometimes dismissively, is the coolest thing in the damn world. It's $100 and something bucks, 150 I guess. You push record, you blather into it for a while, you click it to the side of your computer, and it can launch to YouTube without you even doing another thing. And it's instantly social conversation. 150 bucks isn't all that awful. Go buy a flip. Because again, the active mom type experience is that you can't sit down and focus and find that kind of time. And if you're making it about yourself and you want to talk a little bit about things that are important to you and you want to connect to some community, that to me is probably a fast on-ramp to that sort of experience.
There were three words there that I think are important: community, fast, and connection. And if that's the focus, then I think that's something they can connect.
Back to the we, not the me.
I love that we. Julian, and I saw a hand here, I'm sorry. Julian, go ahead.
No, whatever. Anyway, so to kind of answer your question a little bit about why it's worth it, I personally wouldn't, I'm just some idiot. I don't have a degree in anything. I have a career in social media or whatever. And it's just that you find that on the web, investing yourself into a space where not a lot of people are means that just inherently there's less competition, and anywhere where you invest yourself where there's less competition, there's more profit. So you don't want to go and start a restaurant in the street where everybody else is starting a restaurant. That's stupid. But you want to invest yourself in a place where there's not a lot of people already, and you just go and you spend a couple of hours or whatever time it is that you have available. It's more socially profitable because you can go up the ladder and meet people like Brogan, who has, for example, a huge reader base on his blog, or like Mitch Joel, hey, I know you're watching this, who is a president of a marketing agency. I'm fucking some moron. Like, I shouldn't be able to connect with these people, but on the web, socially, because I'm able to connect with these people. I'm not special, it's just like I'm not some random guy, but it still works. So I can connect with people. Socially, it's more profitable, and financially, if you're going to start a business, starting a business anywhere else but on the web is idiotic, because if you're in regular life, you need to pay employees. That's expensive. You need to rent a building. That's expensive. Starting a business on the web is like, oh, I need a computer and I need a place to sit down and an internet connection. So socially, it's profitable. Financially, it's profitable. To me, that's the way to do it. Like, you want to take care of your kids, you have to, or you want to start a business and be able to take care of your kids or whatever. Make the investment necessary in the right place, and it'll be far more worth it than starting a business in any other location. That's my opinion.
So we have to wrap up fairly shortly. And speaking about meeting people that you didn't think you were going to meet, I was going to TechCrunch 40, which I couldn't afford to go to, but my boss at the time, Jeff Pulver, was supposed to go and forgot he was going to Israel. So he called me up and said, "Can you go to TechCrunch 40 for me?" Okay, twist my arm. And so when I mentioned that I was going, does anybody in the room know Guy Kawasaki? Here's a weird experience from Twitter. Guy Kawasaki direct messages me and goes, "I heard you're going to TechCrunch 40. Would you like to go to lunch?" Okay. Now, I met Guy when I was like 7 years younger than any of these guys. I don't tell him that because, different ages. But I was at a Boston Computer Society thing where he was the Apple evangelist, getting ready to roll out the first ever Apple Macintosh. And I was in the front row with my dad, like, I made Macintosh! And I was so, and what I said to my dad was, I said, that is an awesome job. What Guy is doing, this evangelist thing, I want to do that. No, you don't. That's a horrible idea. You got to get a much bigger job. Okay. And so years later, the guy started a bunch of startups, and he's hot poo to some people. But you know why he took me to lunch? He wanted to figure out what this whole Twitter thing was about and how good he used it. You have no idea. You have no idea what's going to happen. Tommy Valier.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. 5 of us in the room. We got to go. There's another session coming. I really thank you for all your time. Please ask these experts in the room. You ready for